Hey everybody, Jane here. I decided I would start another reading vlog. This vlog is going to be for Pride Month. So I am going to be reading books that are about the LGBTQIA community. I'm super excited to give it a try and get started. So a lot of my reads this month are going to be diverse, and we're going to have a good time. I already have several books chosen from the library and on my Libby app. So I will the short stuff, I'll just let you know after I read it. And then the longer stuff, I'll check in more with you. But yeah, it is the beginning of June 3rd actually. I haven't really read much up to this point. So June 3rd, we are going to get on the ball with it and read all the Pride stuff this month.
Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft spoken.
So I finished my first Pride read for the month. I read Brokeback Mountain. It is a short story that the movie was based on. So I assume most people know what this is about, but just in case, it is about Jack and Ennis, and it's told kind of from Ennis's point of view, more or less. So Jack and Ennis are both working on the sheep ranch, and they start hooking up, and they don't really acknowledge. They're manly men, okay? These are manly men who are not going to sit around and talk about feelings. They're just hooking up, and as a matter of fact, like, one of the first things they say is, like, I'm not gay. And that's fair. They both have wives, they both have children, they both have lives, and basically what happens throughout a large part of the book is just, they're trying to figure out what this thing between them is. So Jack has had other male partners, but Ennis does not. Ennis likes girls and then Jack. So it's a really interesting dynamic. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I actually was really surprised by the writing style. The writing style reminded me a little bit of Stephen King, actually, which it was not at all what I was expecting. And I don't mean that it was meandering, because sometimes Stephen King for me gets a little bit meandering. But like the way Stephen King is with his shorts, that was a lot like what this book was like. And it covered a whole lot of time in a very short story. I listened to it as an audio, and it was a 1-hour audio. And it basically covered a lifetime. It's a short story. So I did think it was interesting. I thought it was sad and complicated, and stylistically I really was surprised how much I liked it. It is not spicy in the way that I'm used to things being spicy. Like, things happen, but it's not graphic, and there are descriptions of things, but it's not graphic. Like, I would say the violence or potential violence in this book is actually much more descriptive than the spicy stuff. So it was interesting. It was interesting. So that was my first Pride read of the month. It was an interesting choice, but I'm not sad that I made that choice. I definitely enjoyed it. I listened to it on Libby. So I started an audiobook. I started Stonewall, and it is a nonfiction about the Stonewall Inn, which I believe is kind of the basis of how we got Pride. So I am reading that. I did a lot of reading today while I was playing Farmville, so one thing you may or may not know about me, I really like farming games. So Farmville is one that I play a lot while listening to audiobooks. Sometimes Harvest Moon, sometimes My Time at Portia. A lot. It is Stardew Valley. So yeah, but I started Stonewall today. I probably will finish it tomorrow. I'm about 8% through, and it's a fairly short audiobook. So it's kind of evening. I don't know if you can tell. It's a little bit dark. I did turn on some lights, but my partner has gone to sleep. So it's a bit late, but I'm going to get a little bit more reading done, and then I'll be back with you soon. So I am about halfway through the Stonewall book, and man, it is intense. It's a good read, but holy cow, it just kills me how few rights people had. And, you know, my parents grew up during like the civil rights movement, and obviously were alive when Stonewall was happening, and just, man, this book hits hard. And I'm so glad that we're at a place where, you know, most people are able, in the United States anyway, to be openly queer. You know, there's no laws saying you can't serve gay people alcohol. There's no laws saying that gay people can't dance. Yeah, it just boggles my mind that we were ever the way that this book describes the history being of like people and our situations. So I'm probably not gonna finish the book tonight. I just had dinner with my mom, and we went out for a special mother-daughter thing. She wanted to have dinner with me in celebration of Mother's Day, which is a little late because it's June, but also like before my surgery. I think I'm coming down with something. I just am always sick. I feel like I can't tell if it's my allergies or if it's a cold, but my throat's been bothering me. So I'm actually, as I'm talking to you now, I'm coming back from lunch with my mom, or dinner with my mom. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm stopping at Kroger to grab some cough drops and see if I can feel a little tiny bit better. I've still got to go to work tonight, so, you know, just gotta maintain the symptoms. But yeah, this book is really hitting me hard. I like it. It's very not boring, and I appreciate that. I am glad I'm listening to it as audio. I think that's definitely adding to it, but holy cow, like, I can't believe we're not even that far out from this. Like, the Stonewall riots, it was less than 100 years ago, like significantly less. And that boggles my mind. I'm so glad for the progress we've made, but also, oh my golly, like, how could we have really been there? I mean, so yeah, anyway, making progress, really enjoying the book, brokenhearted by what people in the LGBTQIA community have had to go through historically for the most basic of rights. Like, I knew it wasn't accepted, but I didn't realize you could like get arrested. Like, the book is talking about how if you were found not having enough pieces of the proper gendered clothing, you could get arrested. And at the time, like, women were kind of against bras, so you could be a woman dressed mostly as a woman and still get arrested because you didn't have 3 pieces of clothing that looked feminine enough. You know, if you're a girl wearing pants, because pants were a thing in the 60s, you know, you're wearing a shirt that is feminine, pants that are masculine. You don't wear a bra and you got some panties on, well, that's not enough, and you could get in trouble for not being dressed appropriate to your gender and get arrested. Like, how crazy is that was a real thing? Like, how crazy is that? So, all right, guys, I will get back to you once I make a little progress. I might play a little bit of Farmville. It's Wednesday right now, so my co-op's completed. They're bored for the week. I don't know how many of you guys play Farmville, but so there's not a lot to do in my game, but tomorrow my board resets. So I will probably be doing a lot of playing tomorrow when my board resets, and my group is trying to like get the points for the week. So I'm excited about that. Might play a little bit casually tonight just for funsies, but tomorrow I expect to play for a couple hours. So I will get back to you when I finish this book. I finished Stonewall. I'm giving it a 4-star. It was so good, but man, was that an emotional, difficult read. But also one that I think everybody in the LGBTQIA community should read. And it's quite possible that it should just be required reading in schools too. I mean, we learn about so many of the civil rights movement acts and things that happened. I think that this is a book that, you know, modern kids probably need to know about to be aware of, like, how far gay rights have come so far. And equally, like, how bad it could be. You know, kids who are growing up these days, they have no concept of how bad it was. I had no concept of how bad it was in the 60s, and I was born in the 80s. So yeah, I'm still obviously not feeling great. I'm not 100% sure what my next read is going to be. I think, but I'm not 100% sure, that it is going to be Magical Boy. This has a trans character. I also have the second Heartstopper graphic novel. I am currently reading an audiobook that is not for this blog or vlog, so I don't think I'll be starting a new audiobook. But by the time I see you again, who knows, all bets could be off. But yeah, I have lots of options to read for Pride Month, and I'm so excited. So we're going to continue, but I had to tell you about Stonewall. So good, you should read it. So it has been about a week since I have checked in with you. I have been extremely sick. I had a cold that is working its way through bronchitis and to pneumonia. I think we've headed off the pneumonia, but it's been a rough week. And I'm still very, very under the weather. I was off of work for 3 days, but I was actually able to return last night. So it's my first night back. And I just wanted to give you an update about my reading over the past week. There has not been a lot of it since I've been so sick. I did finish Magical Boy, the graphic novel. It was about a trans boy who gains superpowers that were passed down through the maternal lines of his family, and he's trying to deal with his identity while also dealing with these new powers and trying to find his place in this family and life situation. I have only read volume 1 so far. I will be reading volume 2 in the very near future. I also started Skirting Gender, and I'm about halfway through. That is, I guess you'd call it a memoir. That's probably it's a nonfiction book written by, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this. Let me give you just a little history. So I, years ago, had gotten this book because I was subscribed to a YouTuber. That YouTuber was, at the time, pretty male presenting and named Michael, and did a lot of nerd related content. One day I looked at the descriptions and they talked about their book. I'm calling them they because I'm not 100% sure at this point how they identify. At the time, they seemed to identify masculine. The book is written by a Vera Wylde, which is their dresser name. So Michael is a dresser who becomes Vera. At the beginning of the book, they said, they're not looking to change their actual gender on birth certificates, driver's license, legally, or even necessarily all the time, but dressing is a big part of their life. I will say I've gone back to their channel recently, and it seems like they are much more feminized now. So I don't know what pronouns or name or anything they are currently using. So I am just going to, from here on out, call them Vera, even though I don't know if they are still Vera or Michael on their channel. And I don't know on their channel what their gender identity is. So, Vera's book is about her experience, kind of as far as I've gotten. The first couple chapters, first section, was her growing up, how she found out she was a dresser, and kind of how dressing fit in to her early life. The middle of the book, which I am in now, and probably close to the end of the middle of, is largely her suggestions, tips, tricks for other dressers. She talks about things like how to acquire clothing if you're a dresser, what kind of things you should know about shoes if you're a dresser, things like earrings. Do you do clip-ons? Do you get actual earrings? How do you handle if you're, wanting to pass as female part of the time, but in your everyday life, you're still presenting as male at the office? I, for myself, have found that it dragged a little bit in the middle because I'm not the audience for it. I'm not a dresser, and I don't care enough about hair and makeup and everything. I'm sure that some females as well could take lessons about things like applying fake eyelashes, but it's just not really for me. So I've been a little bit bored with the current part, but I know that the next part of the book is going to go back to more of Vera's personal experiences and, how gender is incorporated now more in their life. I believe that they've mentioned that that's going to come back into play in the book. So I am curious to see the rest of the book. I'm still reading it. I'm reading it very slowly. I hope Vera would not be offended, but it's currently kind of my bathroom book. So I like to have a nonfiction in the bathroom that I can read in small sections, and nonfiction is much better for that than fiction. You hop in there, you read the section about eyelashes, and you're done, and you're done. And so that's kind of how I'm getting through it right now. Because I've been really unwell, I haven't had the time or energy, to sit and actually read anything dense. And I don't know that Vera's book is something that I personally would want to read through cover to cover really quickly. I don't think it would hold my attention quite enough, but I am working on it. And so I'm not sure when I'll be done with it. It's kind of something I'm taking slowly, but that's the only other read right now that I'm in the middle of. I am doing some non-Pride reads, but I do plan to get a few more Pride reads in for the month. I don't know 100% what they'll be, but I'm excited about them. I will check in with you when either I finish Vera's book or when I start a new Pride read. Hello. It has been a few days. I am still fairly sick, but I did get some more Pride reads done. So I read a very short story. It says it's a novella, but I feel like it's too short to be a novella. And it's a short story in the Heartbreaker world called This Winter. And it's basically like the Heartstopper boys and them having family issues at Christmas. I ended up giving it a 3-star because I am only on the first Heartstopper book. I think I read this a little too soon. It does deal with some issues that have not been revealed yet, as far as like one character has some health issues that play a role in the short story, but that haven't been revealed as far as I have read in the graphic novels. So I did enjoy it, but I didn't get very much out of it. It was a very short, like, hey, family is hard for the holidays. It was very slice of life, and it was fine, but it was just kind of meh for me. So that being said, I did finish that, and then I started another called the Spindle Splintered, which seems like it is going to be a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. So we have a character who is terminally ill, and her best friend just threw her a birthday party, and the birthday party was Sleeping Beauty themed because Sleeping Beauty is her favorite Disney princess, and shenanigans seem like they're about to go down. So I am waiting to see how that goes. I'm not super far in, but I did start that. I have some errands to run today. I need to go to the library and drop stuff off. Not picking stuff up, I hope. And I need to go to the grocery store and a few other things. So I'm going to do audiobook the whole time that I'm doing that and get a little bit of more of that read. So continuing on with my Pride reads, I'll update you soon. I finished a Spindle Splintered. And I think my ultimate rating for it is going to be a 3. But like with interest enough to try to read the second book in the series. So I think this book was maybe a very high concept book. And I loved the concept. I loved the discussions. There's a lot of discussions about fairy tale literature and roles of women in that literature, and a lot of really cool, neat discussions. I thought the story itself was just okay. I liked what the story was doing conceptually, but I wasn't super invested in a lot of the stuff happening. So yeah, I really did enjoy it though. So it's kind of like I didn't like it quite enough to put it as a 4, but a 3 feels a little bit on the lower side. I don't know, like maybe this was a high 3. That feels like closer to correct because I don't think there was enough substance and enjoyment for me to rate it a 4. So some really short things I can rate a 4 or 5, but I have to really love those. And this was just okay. It had cool conversations. It was fine. It maybe lacked a little bit in substance, but I had a good time. And I also do assume that it is either middle grade or YA. Our main character is 21. And so probably leaning more towards YA, but content-wise, there was only a couple things that I felt like crossed that border into YA. So it's possible too that that's part of the reason that it was a little lower on content and more on discussion. But yeah, I did overall have a good time with it. I would recommend, especially if you love Sleeping Beauty and want kind of a Sleeping Beauty portal world story. And I'm looking forward to the next book in the series, which is also kind of short and probably equally lower on substance. In the second book, it is Snow White's story, but I'm not entirely sure if Snow White is the character that is being affected by the portal stuff or if it is the witch, because the portals aren't bringing the characters into the fairy tale exactly as we know it, but kind of altered. It was interesting. It was conceptually interesting. It was like the person who wrote it really liked fairy tales, and the character actually has a degree in fairy tales. And so there's a lot of literary discussion around the fairy tale. So I did enjoy that. Yeah, so it was a good time. A little bit less LGBTQIA themes than I was expecting. I wouldn't necessarily say, yes, this is a Pride read, because while there were discussions about LGBTQIA issues and there was a side character or two side characters that were LGBTQIA, the main character, she states early on in the book that she's at least 3/4 straight, which I know is not actually straight, but I'd picked it out because it was something that had come up in my library as an LGBTQIA read. And while I could see it being that, I think that is a much lesser theme in the story than I was expecting it to be. But yeah, I had a good time, and I will let you know what my next read's going to be. I am still working on Skirting Gender. I am in the last third of that book, so I do think I'll finish it before the end of June. Right now we are at June, I think today is the 20th, so I still have a little time, but not a whole lot of time. So I'm probably not going to get too many more reads, but I want to get at least a few. So I'll let you know what the next read is. Today I am doing some door dashing, and I am doing an audiobook called Book Boyfriend. This is about a guy who is a writer, or I guess he's a wannabe writer, and his best friend, who he's had a crush on for a really long time, just broke up with his boyfriend and moves in with him. And our main character, I think his name is PK. It's first person, so like I have a hard time following what their name is. So main character, he is really crushing on his friend and roommate, but he hasn't told his roommate and doesn't want to make it weird. So he is writing this book kind of inspired by his love for his roommate, but he doesn't want to tell anybody about it. So that's where I am. I'm not too far into it. I've been dashing a bit this morning, so I probably am an hour or so in. But I'm going to keep reading it as I dash. It's kind of a rainy, yucky day, so I was only scheduled to dash for another like 15-20 minutes, but if other dashers in my area drop out, I might go longer. As I said, it's a really yucky, rainy day out, so I'm not loving dashing in these conditions, but it keeps me busy, and this is the first time I've gone dashing since being sick. I'm starting to feel better. I still don't feel best. I still feel a little bit icky. Lots of lingering, like, asthma or whatever this is going on for sure. So, but yeah, so I'm doing at least one more Pride read, and I still have not finished Skirting Gender, but I'm getting close. I'm in the last third, maybe even the last fourth of a book. So it's more right now the author talking about how they view their gender and how gender and dressing and everything plays into their life. So I am still enjoying it. I do think I'll get it finished before the end of June, and hopefully with the dashing today, I will get this one underway and then maybe play some Farmville later and listen some more. So we will see. But I'm excited, and we're gonna get at least these two finished before the end of June for Pride Reads. I feel like this is becoming more and more a me and my car vlog, and I'm sorry about that, but I spend a lot of time out here, and also like my house is kind of dark, and right now my partner is sleeping, despite I know you can see that it is daytime. It's like 1:30. My partner keeps really weird hours, so recording while he is sleeping is just kind of a pain because I can't necessarily project the way I would like to. So since I was already out dashing, doing my DoorDash, I thought I would come to you with an update. So I finished Book Boyfriend. I didn't love it, and I'm going to give it a 3-star. So I don't think there was anything technically wrong with it. It was a story. But I didn't like Preston, who is our main character. I felt like the book, I wasn't sure what the book was. It seemed like it wanted to be a romance, but it didn't really feel like a romance. It felt more like women's fiction, chick lit. I don't know if you can have that with a male main character, but like the romance is the focus of the book, but it's also very secondary. I didn't feel like we really got to see much time between Preston, PK, and Art, who is the guy that he is in love with. And I wasn't necessarily buying their love. It's a kind of weird book, and I'm not really sure. I know that it didn't really work for me. So I just, I'm not sure what it was trying to do exactly, but I think I understood what it did. Like, I understood the plot. I don't have any questions about that. I didn't believe the romance. I wasn't rooting for the characters to get together. And so that was kind of where it fell a little bit short for me. I did start another book for Pride Read, and that is Come Tumbling Down. It is the next of the Wayward Children series. This is book like 7 in the series, maybe. It's a good bit in. So let me just give you a brief, like, what the series is. In this series, there is a school for wayward children. These children have gone to portal worlds and come back. And depending on the book, sometimes we get like a kid in their portal world, and sometimes we get at the school. And this particular book is at the school, so I want to limit what I say about it, because if you're reading the series, there's probably spoilers, because like the books that go through the portals a lot of times aren't spoilery because they're the kids and their portals. They're almost like prequels to the rest of the series. Whereas like when you're doing the school timeline books, it's the future and things are happening and there's progression and there's characters you may not have met yet and there's situations you may not know about yet. So I don't want to say too much other than this book does involve Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill were very big, important characters in book 1 and book 2. They are not my favorite characters, although I'm so far pretty interested and invested in what's happening in this book. So enough to go with it and be like, okay, this seems like it's going to be a great adventure. So I do enjoy the series. Overall, the series is a little bit underwritten, which I think makes sense. It's YA. So I think when you have teenagers reading, you need to get in there and get quick. And so it's a fairly short book. I think the audiobook, which is how I'm consuming it, is 4 hours. So it is currently June 26th, and I have a ton of driving over the next 2 days. So I think I'm probably about an hour into the audiobook now. So I've got 3 hours to go. And over the next 2 days, I have at least 4 hours in the car. I have doctor's appointments that are in Columbus, which is about an hour from where I live. So, the best doctors are in the capital here, or the big cities. So I will be heading to my doctor's appointments Thursday and Friday. Today's Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and it's about an hour both directions. So I'm going to get the audiobook finished pretty much for sure. And that, I don't know if that'll be my last audiobook Pride read. I have a couple other books out on Libby, but we're cutting it close on time. I also started, and hopefully will finish, but I'm not 100% sure, the Fake Dating Game. We are only a chapter in, but there is this guy, and he just took his boyfriend to a fancy restaurant because he wanted to ask his boyfriend to go on this game show with him. And this game show is super important to him. His mother has passed away, and it's something that they had in common and that was really important to them. And it sounds like it's kind of similar to a supermarket sweep meets Gladiators, maybe. You're trying to go through a supermarket and take stuff off the walls into your cart, but there's physical obstacles to overcome, like a bean pool or something. Anyway, so he has taken his boyfriend to this restaurant and is like, hey, please come on the show with me. And the boyfriend is like, listen, friend, number one, I think your show's dumb. I get that it's, it's dealing with your grief about your mom. I don't care. I'm not going on the show with you. And as a matter of fact, I've been trying to break up with you and haven't figured out how yet. So, of course, the guy is devastated, not only because he wants to go on the show. The show is very important, but you have to have a team, and he wanted his boyfriend to be it. And I don't know if you have to be relationally part of a team or if you could be besties, but it sounds like he is supposed to be relationally with the person on his team. And, his boyfriend is like, not only do I not want to go and do this thing that's super important to you, but I also want to break up. So I'm only a chapter in. I'm enjoying it. It seems like it's going to be a fairly short, quick read. So my hope is that I will be able to finish it before the end of the month, but we're getting so close. And I really want to get this vlog up by the 1st of July, if possible. So I'm definitely going to have to sit down and do some reading. And I am still a little ways from finishing Skirting Gender. So I just have a lot of books happening right now, but I'm making progress in all of them. And I think these will be the end of what I read for the month, but we'll see. I keep saying that and stuff keeps happening, and who knows? But I do think that's what's ultimately going to be, these 3 reads are going to be it for my Pride vlog. So, it's the 26th. We have till the end of June. Wish me luck. Oh, and I wanted to show you, I just got back from the library and picked up books. So, at the end of my dash shift, I passed by the library, and there were books waiting for me at my locker. So I am so excited to show you the books that I got from the library. I got Blood on the Tracks, Volume 7. For those who don't know, I'm really enjoying this series. It's a manga. If you want more information, Volume 9 will definitely be in my wrap-up for June. There is Beastars Volume 8, again, a manga series I'm already in the middle of. There is I, Zombie, Dead to the World. This is the first volume. So I just started watching this show, and I was like, I wonder if there's a book. Turns out there's a comic. So I got Volume 1, and I'm excited to give it a try. The show is really cool so far. I just started the second season, and I've had a couple people tell me that the first season was good and then everything else sucked. I haven't felt that way yet, but I might. And the last book is Ruined. So those are the books that I just picked up from the library and will probably be reading soon, ? They're all short, they're mangas, graphic novels. I am trying to kind of intersperse my reading with those things because sometimes I just need like a quick palate cleanse, and I'm finding that manga and graphic novels do really well for me as a palate cleanse. I don't want to like binge them. I don't want to read them back to back to back to back. But for a while I was reading like one a day, along with like interspersing the bigger works that I'm reading. And I really, really have been enjoying that. So I do hope to get to these soon. So I will let you know in the next couple days how things are going with all 3 of my current reads. I am a little more than half through the fake dating game. I will say it is a romance, a male-male romance that is written by a man. And I would say that that's super, super clear as somebody who usually reads men written by women. I'm not in any way judging this. I am just saying if you are somebody who thinks that you would like to read this, just be aware going into it that especially the spicy scenes, they feel written by a man. So I definitely personally, I think prefer men written by women, but I am overall enjoying the book as well. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update. I just got done with my allergy shots, so I thought I would come to you and finish up this vlog. I did finish both Skirting Gender and the fake dating game. I kind of felt similarly about both of them, that they weren't really for me. So Skirting Gender has some really good stuff in it, but it's definitely more for people who are dressers. And as somebody who's not a dresser, I found some parts interesting, but probably like I wish the parts that I found interesting could have been an essay instead of a whole book. So while I did feel like I understood dressing a little bit better, I definitely didn't feel like I needed to read a whole book about how to put on eyelashes and what kind of makeup to do and whether to get your ears pierced if you're a dresser, etc. So, also, I realized at the end of the book that I've been saying the YouTuber's name incorrectly. So when Vera is male presenting, her name is Nathaniel. And I've been saying Michael this whole time. I have no idea why I thought it was Michael. I've thought it was Michael for years. It is apparently not. So I'm correcting myself. I thought initially I was like, oh crap, when I realized that, because his name was said at the end of the book, and I was like, wait a second, I thought his name was Michael. So then I did some research, and no, it's Nathaniel. Been Nathaniel this whole time. So I was like, well, I could go and edit the whole video. Every time I said Michael, be like, bleep it out, try something. Then I thought, no, I'll just confess and be like, I don't know. I don't know why I thought it was Michael, but it's not Michael, it's Nathaniel. So, I did end up giving Skirting Gender a 4 out of 5 stars, even though I didn't personally find it very useful because I'm not the audience for it. It was very readable, and I think that people could have a good time, and I think it's a necessary book for people who are new to the dressing community. I think if you are not part of the dressing community, this is probably not a book you'll want to read in a full, but you might appreciate like the beginning of it and some of the latter parts too, particularly when Vera discusses, gender identity and figuring out the day-to-day, who needs to know that you're a dresser, how figuring out where dressing falls into your life figures out like how you should approach dressing when it comes to work and your kids and your families. So there was some really interesting stuff towards the end that I think could be useful to read even if you are not a dresser. But I think like especially the bulk of the middle of this book is very targeted. So that's that one. I also felt like the fake dating game wasn't really for me. And like intentionally I'm not the audience for it, which is how I felt about Skirting Gender. Although with the fake dating game, I felt like I was confused by why I'm not. So, it is a man writing a male-male relationship. And while I have read male-male relationships before in romances, they've always been written by females, I believe. And I have always felt like they were romance books. And while this fell into a lot of the tropes of romance, it just felt it felt to me, and maybe I am incorrect about this, that the audience was much more intended on being a male reader than a female reader, which is an interesting choice because at least last I looked at the statistics, even for male-male romance, the primary readership is female. So I thought that was an interesting tone or choice. And again, if you've read it, you may feel differently, and maybe that was my feeling, and maybe that feeling is not accurate. I ended up giving it a 3-star. I liked the concept. I liked the setup. I liked the ideas. I didn't vibe with a lot of the other stuff. It is a fairly spicy book, and the spicy scenes gave me a bit of the ick. Less from like what is being done and more from what words are being used to describe what's being done. Yeah, I was having a hard time with that. Story-wise, I liked Holden, who is the main character, who is the POV character. But his love interest, Leo, I didn't ever really connect with Leo. It wasn't that I wasn't rooting for them, because Holden seemed to like him, but I didn't necessarily like Leo. Additionally, plot-wise, around the halfway point, maybe a little past the halfway point, I started to not enjoy myself nearly as much. There is an antagonist introduced, and that antagonist, I thought their motives didn't make a lot of sense, weren't well laid out. It felt very convenient. Trying to avoid spoilers here, but there's a lot of buildup to something that happens, later in the book. And I didn't feel like once it was happening, we really got to embrace it and be in the moment and let it be as big and exciting as I wanted it to be. I felt like there's this build up, and then it's like boop, 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 we're past it now. And I was like, wait a second, like I had kind of assumed that was going to be a large part of the book, at least the latter half of it, and it really wasn't. And then just like the whole second part of the book, the whole second half of the book really just didn't work. Just kind of all around in all the ways possible wasn't working for me. So yeah, I would not steer anybody away from this book if you don't mind, if you're really open to whatever smexy language and you think, hey, this is awesome, we're getting a man's authentic take on this, I think that's great. Give it a try. If you think it's a cool concept, give it a try and see if the execution works for you better than it works for me. But yeah, it just ended up being kind of a disappointing miss for me. I was actually fairly bummed about it. And I was equally bummed because I had planned on reading another book by that author, and that's also in male romance. And I think after this one, I don't want to. I really think I'm good. So I was going to read, I think it's The Charm Offensive. And like, I've heard good things about it. I've had that like reserved at the library. But after reading this, I just don't think this author is for me in a romance genre. Like, I don't think their writing is bad. I would read other books by this author in another genre, but I don't think I want to read this author more as a male romance writer. I think those books aren't hitting it for me. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed that at the end of this vlog, I had 2 books that were a little bit more on the miss side for me. I, was really looking forward to the fake dating game. I liked the synopsis and the idea, and it really kind of felt a lot shorter for me than I wanted. The skirting gender book, I wish I'd have been more aware when I picked it up who the intended audience was, which, that's probably an error on my part. I should have done more research, but it was an educational experience. I really had hoped to come out of this vlog with a lot more books that I loved, and I felt like most of the books in this vlog felt very kind of mid to me, which was kind of a bummer, but that's okay. I'm glad we did it because representation matters, and it's important to read books that have characters who fall on the LGBTQIA spectrum all year, not just for Pride. But, it's cool that we did it for Pride Read, and I'm not sad I did it. I'll probably do it again next year, actually, because this was fun, even if I didn't necessarily get the results I wanted. So yeah, please tell me in the comments if you've read any of these, if you love them, didn't like them, think that I'm vastly wrong in my opinions about any of them, feel free. If you have any books that have LGBTQIA characters that you think I would really, really enjoy, please leave that in the comments as well so that I can find other books maybe for next year's vlog. If you don't really want to leave a comment, please leave a book emoji because it helps the algorithm know that people are interacting with the video. Also, like, subscribe, all the usuals. And yeah, this has been Jane, and I will see you next time. Bye!